best place for below average Star Wars.
Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Show.
The best place for below average Star Wars.
I'm the Geordie Jedi Pete.
And I'm Canon Junkie XL Ian.
And we're back with a brand new episode of the Star Wars podcast. And today we're going to be reviewing the first two episodes of The Bad Batch, the brand new animated series spinning off from the Clone Wars. Ian, have you seen both episodes?
I have, mate, yes. I've just watched the first one this morning. Pretty fresh in the memory. And I watched the mini movie. I've watched it about fully 2 times, and I've had it on in the background during the week. So it's pretty fresh in my memory as well.
What were your overall thoughts? Were you sort of in love with this series straight away?
I am, yeah. It really did blow me away. My favourite animated show probably is The Clone Wars. I really enjoyed it. And this is just obviously a continuation of that story, but it's a continuation, but obviously it's veering off into a very different galaxy. So yeah, the first episode, I was blown away, and then this morning's one, blown away in a totally different reason. Yeah, so I really did. I've loved the first 2 episodes of The Bad Batch.
Definitely, let's dive straight in. So episode 1 was Aftermath. It was directed by Stuart Lee, Sewell Ruiz, and Nathaniel Villanueva. It was written by Jennifer Corbett and Dave Filoni. It was released on May the 4th, and it was a 70-minute extravaganza mini-movie, as you said. Yeah,
definitely, mate. It was really nice to have something new to watch on May the 4th, and they did not disappoint with this episode, I'll tell you that now.
Let's talk about that opening sequence. What were your sort of favourite parts and your thoughts on the opening sequence?
I was unsure whether we would touch on Order 66. So it was quite... obviously, it got you right up for it straight away because you obviously knew what was coming. It was still taking part in the Clone Wars. Obviously, we had the Tom Kane narration at the start of the episode. And seeing, obviously, Jedi Master Balaba and obviously a young Caleb Doom with Freddie Prince's 40-year-old voice, which didn't bother me. I've seen people there like taking the mick out of it a bit, but it didn't bother me. It fits. He is the character, so yeah. But it got my attention straight away because obviously we were still in the Clone Wars, so obviously Order 66 was just around the corner.
Yeah, I think for me, I always thought we were going to be starting the series with Order 66, and then that's where we were going to take these characters from, and where these characters going to be involved. Do they have the inhibitor chips? Do they not? That type of thing. So I always thought that, but I was not expecting us to go to Kala and us to see Kanan and Deepa. That really did hit on the heartstrings as soon as I realised where we were. I was like, oh my God, we're actually here doing this. Dave's gonna make this a tragic morning for us all.
Definitely, mate. As soon as I heard the word Kala, my ears pricked up, obviously, because I've read the Kanan comic, which obviously I've seen some stuff online that this obviously retcons it a bit. I think that'll always be the case. I think Dave is very much under the same thing as George Lucas. Like, what happens on the screen is canon. And it retcons it a bit, obviously, the Kanan comic, but it's still, the broad strokes of that story are still pretty nailed on. So yeah, I've seen obviously it's retconned it a bit, but it hasn't. And to be fair, I love that comic. It's one of my favourite Star Wars comics, but I get why they've obviously retconned it a bit to make it on screen.
Yeah, I think one of my first things was, we had the Deepa and Kanan character models for the Jedi Council meeting. That was the clip in the last season of Clone Wars. And it was like, what a waste of models just for them to be in one scene there. But obviously now we see the models were made because we were going to get them in this opening sequence here.
Yeah, definitely. It makes me think as well about, obviously, we saw Dryden Voss, a model of him in Clone Wars Season 7. So I would probably have a strong hint now that Dryden Voss is going to be in the Bad Batch as well.
Possibly. I think we've got a lot of episodes to go, and as we'll get into, the Bad Batch find themselves sort of on the run by the end of this episode. So it's a case of, they're probably going to need to turn to not nice people for help. And obviously, Dryden Voss would fit that bill 100%. Yeah, I thought the introduction was, like I said, after it was like 1-2 punch to the gut, almost took my breath away once we realised we were on Collar, and once we realised we were going to see Deepa die, and we were going to see Caleb Dune, who will become Kanan, deal with that heartbreak of losing his master. And then once I recovered from that, I got really into it. I was sort of very cautious of Crosshair straight away, the way he was acting. I think it was set up that way on purpose.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we get into it later in the episode with how the Bad Batch's inhibitor chips work. So we do get into that later on in the episode. But yeah, he's always been like, obviously, when we got introduced to him in the Clone Wars Season 7, he's always been the, not the baddie of the group, but obviously the most likely to join up with the Empire. And obviously, he tries to take part in Order 66. He shoots at Kanan, Caleb, and it was already set up in Season 7 that he was going to, if anyone was going to join up with the Empire, it probably would be Crosshair. And plus all the promotional stuff before the show, obviously the trailers and that, we only ever see him on Camino and that obviously black-cladded, like sort of Death Trooper, Clone Wars armor geezer with the rifle at his back looks very Crosshair, and obviously we find out later in the episode what happens with Crosshair. But yeah, it always was set up that he would be the one to leave the group.
Yeah, I think for me, they make the point of changing his armor, halfway through once he sides with the Empire. So it's like they've made him Imperial, not just with his actions, but also how he looks. So they've stripped him away from the group now and replaced him with Omega, pretty much. For me, I thought, Crosshair at the beginning is like good soldiers follow orders, good soldiers follow orders. He's, reminds you back that Clone Wars arc when the inhibitor chip goes off early.
Yeah, it goes off with, is it Tup? I think it's Tup, yeah.
So, so I think, like, for me, Crosshair, like, instantly didn't like him the way he was going on, acting like that when he was, good soldiers follow orders, and he was sort of shooting in the trees. He was sort of all the good work Hunter was doing, trying to get Caleb Doom to trust them. Crosshair was in doing straight away, not following orders, not following his commander's orders, who was Hunter, but following the Sith Lord's orders, Darth Sidious.
Yeah, definitely. The inhibitor chip was obviously at work. And then, like I said, we'll get into why the inhibitor chips don't work with the rest of the Bad Batch. But, it was really, really gripping opening of the show that obviously had me hooked from the very beginning. I did love how the Bad Batch made their entrance, obviously. Big boulder comes down the side of a hill, knocks out all the battle droids, and obviously there was a couple of shots like that in Clone Wars Season 7 where they just go to work and do what they do, as they like to say.
Definitely, mate. It was good to see we got like more of the same with those guys in action. Just how they would be as they've already been depicted in the similar time frame. So obviously we see Order 66 sort of get declared. We see these clones turn on Jedi Master Billaba. And we see sort of, all of a sudden the droids on the issue, all of a sudden the Jedi are the issue. And it's almost like, the Jedi though the clones think the Jedi are traitors, it's the clones who are actually the traitors.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, they can't help it. Obviously, this was the whole grand plan of the clones and that. And it's hard. Obviously, they kill the Jedi, we know they do, but it's really not their fault in the grand scheme of things. It's not. They don't have a choice. Even later, when Omega's talking to Crosshair, she says, "Look, I know what you're going to do. I know you can't help it, So I get it, the clones, and I get why you like. Obviously, we see Kanan in Rebels season 2 when he meets Rex, Wolf, and Gregor. He doesn't trust clones, and obviously you can see why. But yeah, it's not really their fault.
I don't know, because Rex was able to get Ahsoka in the right direction to save them. So it's a bit like, I think some of them are so bred for war that, oh well, I'll just use an excuse. I'll just follow orders to the line again, even though I think it might be a little bit wrong. Like, I'm getting told to do it, so I'm not going to fight it. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, obviously Rex did go to execute Order 66, but he managed to fight. But I think it'd be hard for every clone to break that programming. To break the programming that obviously these inhibitor chips do obviously control them. And I think this will be a major part of the show, because obviously we'll get on to episode 2 sooner, but obviously I think a major part of the show would be them going around trying to help clones obviously break this cycle.
So speaking of Crosshair, obviously we find out that Crosshair gets sort of knocked out by Kanan or by Caleb, and Caleb ends up jumping over a big cliff, over a big giant chasm to safety, and runs away from Hunter. Crosshair comes and says, "Oh, like, did you shoot the Padawan?" Hunter tells him, "Yes, I did shoot him. I shot him as he jumped, and he fell down there, and he's dead." And Crosshair's very much like, "Why were you looking across? If someone falls, you look down."
Yeah, I like that. That was a nice touch.
Obviously, but again, showing the seeds of like, this Crosshair guy is like not very trustworthy, and he's not trusting of anything. And yeah, when we later find out that the Republic forces on the planet report that both Master Bilabar and the Padawan Caleb Dume have been killed, have been Order 66th. But we find out that Tarkin's received a report from Crosshair saying that he believes the Padawan's not dead.
Yeah, obviously sets up the whole turn of Crosshair going obviously to the Empire, and straight away, as soon as obviously Caleb ran away, you could tell Crosshair didn't believe what Hunter said.
So I don't think there's going to be any redemption for Crosshair. I think like he's very much like made his bed here. He's decided, I'm going to go behind your back and tell Tarkin, I'm also going to ignore your orders, Hunter, and try and kill the Padawan, and then I'm going to try and kill you guys later as well.
Yeah, it was very obviously it's a bit of a parallel to obviously the end of the Clone Wars, where Rex tries to talk Jesse out of trying to kill Ahsoka, and obviously it doesn't work.
Yeah, definitely. So just looking at sort of what is the state of the galaxy. Obviously we've had overnight the Galactic Republic has become the Empire. We've now got an Emperor instead of a Supreme Chancellor, which Tarkin makes very clear when speaking to the Kaminoans.
Yeah, I like that. I like the fact the whole way of the Empire getting out of paying for clones now is, well, your contract was technically with the Galactic Republic, and we're not that anymore. So all our contracts are null and void.
Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously it makes sense. Obviously, we know what happens to the Empire go away from clones, because it makes sense to sort of, if you want to enslave your galaxy, the best way to do it is to make them think that they're not slaves. So, by having people join the army, people get that false sense of sort of belonging and pride. And, yes, they follow orders, do whatever they're told. They don't necessarily think about right or wrong. They just do as they're told because they're following orders as soldiers. And you have that soldier who's joined up just for a job, really, but he then gets that sense of sort of nationalism, shall we say, and obviously then you have that soldier's family then get on board with it, because, oh well, my son, my daughter fights for the army, or so I support the army, and by I support the army, I support the Empire, and before you know it, everybody's supporting the Empire without even realizing what the Empire is.
Obviously, what you've just said is very pertinent to me. I joined the army at 17, just a job, but I get exactly where you're coming from, mate. I get exactly where you're coming from.
It's definitely a way to get everybody sort of on board across the galaxy with the changes. They haven't done it yet in this series, but I imagine towards the end we'll see the close down of clone productions on Kamino, and we'll see the the recruitment drive by the Imperial Army and Navy to recruit soldiers and officers.
Yeah, obviously, if you followed Star Wars Legends, in the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, in the campaign, there was a clone uprising on Kamino, and I could see that very much because the Kaminoans are up to something. Obviously, you hear Lamassu and I can't remember the Prime Minister the Kamino's called, but they're obviously talking, and they say, "Well, we need to see how this shakes out with the Empire and that." So I think eventually we know how it ends. They obviously pull away from clones. They're going to start using stormtroopers, and I could see the clone uprising from like the original idea from Star Wars Battlefront 2 obviously happening in this show, which would be pretty heartbreaking. Like because I don't see the Empire just saying to the Kaminoans, right, okay, we're done with cloning, but we're going to leave you to it. I could obviously see them try and take the Kaminoans out. So obviously they can't use their cloning abilities against the Empire later on. Because obviously there would be, if the rebellion could find out that they could breed clones, I'm pretty sure they would have tried.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, definitely. And I think also the paper trail. So, the Empire don't want the truth getting out about Order 66 and about the Jedi. If the truth gets out that the Jedi actually were murdered and weren't traitors, then you're going to have a political uprising in the Senate. Obviously, the Caminos know about Order 66 and know about the inherited chips. So what I think you're going to have is very similar to what the Empire did with Geonosis, is they're going to mass genocide Camino to get rid of no one's alive to talk or tell the tale.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you, mate. Like I said, we've seen this in the comics. Like you mentioned, Geonosis, the Empire basically sterilized the world because obviously they built the first Death Star above Geonosis, and they want obviously that news not to get out. So they basically sterilized the whole world of Geonosis. Obviously, we see Click Clack in Rebels. He's I don't know, but he's probably the last surviving member of the Geonosian race. So they go pretty deep. Obviously, they don't. If the Empire doesn't want something coming out, and then they will go full on mass genocide. And plus, the Kaminoans don't only know about the inhibitor chips. They don't only know about the Jedi. They know that obviously the Sith. They know about the Sith as well. And at this point, the Empire is not advertising that it is run by a Sith Lord.
Nope, and the Empire never advertised that throughout the entire original trilogy. It's always just this is the Emperor. He looks after you, type of thing. And they try to keep that sort of idea secret, because if you were ruling as the Sith, the people obviously heard stories of the Sith. You'll probably have again an political uprising, or you'll have a stronger rebellion. The rebellion will take shape quicker. But because he's hiding as a politician who's weak, no one sees that coming as him being a powerful Sith Lord.
Yeah, there's a great line in the first episode of Bad Batch, obviously later on, when obviously Saw Gerrera says, Tech says to Saw Gerrera, the Jedi tried to stage an uprising and were defeated. And I can't exactly remember what Saw Gerrera says, and he's like, I thought you were the smart one. So obviously he knows what's going on. So yeah, but it's obviously not a widely known fact that the Empire is run by two Sith Lords. Obviously, come the Rise of Skywalker, Palpatine's not bothered. He says, yeah, the Rise of the Sith is coming, but at this point in the timeline, he probably wants to keep that. Well, he definitely wants to keep that to himself.
Definitely, I think obviously, he keeps up the tension between himself and Vader and those who know, probably the Sith priests and stuff. But like at the general public, it's a case of like, no, we're just a Galactic Empire. Go about your business. I like how the Coruscant Guard was on Kamino when the guys get back. Obviously, because Tarkin's there and they're guarding Tarkin. It's nice to see the Coruscant Guard shock troopers.
Yeah, I do like that trooper design. Obviously, we see them carting out a dead Jedi. Obviously, I've been on Twitter trying to find out who this Jedi is, but no one seems to know who that lightsaber belongs to. But yeah, we obviously see that the clones on Kamino have obviously carried out their orders. There's probably a Jedi that was stationed on Kamino. So we see obviously during the thing of the Clone Wars, Shaak Ti was stationed on Kamino, so maybe it was another Jedi stationed on Camino.
Yes, I think obviously Shaak-Ti, I think, ends up getting recalled to Coruscant during the final battles of the Clone Wars. So this will be whoever her replacement was, maybe as a Jedi trainer to the clones.
Yeah, she gets recalled, obviously, because in Clone Wars Season 7, it kind of ties into the old 2003 Tawarowski's Clone Wars. Mace Windu says, "Oh, we've lost contact with Master Shaak-Ti." So, yeah. So that's obviously... She's not on Camino during Order 66. So, yeah. I've seen someone say it might be Zat, like one of the Padawans from... one of the Clone Wars arcs, but I'm not sure. No one seems to know who this Jedi is, or whether it might just be a random Jedi. They've obviously just dropped the lightsaber to prove a point, obviously.
Yeah, obviously, we see, it's someone on a stretcher with a blanket over them, the dead body, and we see the lightsaber fall from the stretcher. So it's very very simple, but very emotive imagery we get there of what's gone on here.
100%, mate, yeah. Couldn't agree more.
And it's a symbol of what's happened throughout the galaxy, not just here.
Yeah, obviously the dawning of a new era in the galaxy, and obviously the start of the Dark Times era.
So moving on, we see Gunnar talking. He wants to see the Bad Batch in action. It's sort of unclear why he wants to see these clones in action. Maybe it is because Crosshair's filed a report and he wants to know, can we trust Crosshair? Can we trust these clones? Is it a false report? So maybe that's why he's asking them to do a drill in front of him, is because he's had the report from Crosshair and he wants to make sure that that report's correct and that these clones, if they can't be trusted, get put down.
Yeah, obviously, because they make, obviously in the training exercise, they start off with blank fire and they make quick work of the training course. So obviously Tarkin, not to be outdone, obviously brings in to obviously start asking them to do it in live. Obviously, he doesn't tell the Bad Batch, but they obviously start to go firing in live rounds. And we see very early prototypes of the Dark Troopers.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So I've got some notes about the Dark Troopers because I definitely had those vibes as well. I think obviously talking, he puts it on live fire. I wonder if he's thinking, let's turn it to live fire and see if we can kill these guys here and get rid of the problem. Or, if we see them survive this, then we know down the line Palpatine's going to be cloning things.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think, it's probably you win both ways. If he takes them out, then it's obviously one less headache because he obviously has misgivings about them straight away because obviously he doesn't really trust them. And obviously Echo brings up that he doesn't like clones anyway. Obviously Echo knows him from the Citadel episodes of the Clone Wars. So he obviously warns the other Bad Batch. He says, look, this guy doesn't like clones. Already there's a prejudice there. And he does say that obviously 5 enhanced clones, there probably is an interest from the Empire to see whether they could create more, obviously Bad Batches, because they're very capable and you could obviously use them for all sorts of black projects. The Empire, obviously assassinations and all that type of thing, going in, taking out rebel cells and that. So I'm guessing the Empire would be very interested to see if they could control these guys to then maybe breed more, to see if they could have their own elite squadrons that they could send on Black Ops and all that type of thing.
Definitely. When I was watching the battle simulation, when Tarkin asks the Kaminoans to change it to live rounds, live ammunition. I don't know why, but in my head I just remember Starship Troopers. I'm sure there's a scene in Starship Troopers where they're doing an exercise and there's an accidental live round use and someone ends up getting shot, I think.
I haven't seen Starship Troopers in ages, mate. I'll have to watch that at the weekend to see if that's the case. But yeah, no. But yeah, obviously, because a couple of them do get shot. Wrecker gets shot by these new, obviously, Dark Trooper-ish type things. And I did appreciate that, obviously, when the Dark Troopers spoke, they used sound effects from The Force Unleashed. And anytime The Force Unleashed gets brought up, I love it. So
yep.
Yeah, But it was really cool. They looked really menacing, and they did take the Bad Batch a longer time to obviously dispatch. And then we had that awesome shot of Wrecker throwing the knife and Crosshair shooting the knife into the Dark Trooper. That was pretty sick.
I also loved the fact that Wrecker gave one of the Dark Troopers a German suplex.
Anytime wrestling, I know how much you love wrestling, mate. Anytime wrestling comes in, he did give him a German suplex.
So I was like, I'm marking out for that when that happened. I was loving it. So I thought the live round droids, like I said, automatically got Dark Trooper vibes. I feel they also had like similar sound design to Dark Troopers. And I thought they were like, after watching it back, I was like, they're sort of like half Dark Troopers as we see them in The Mandalorian, and like half B2 battle droids, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they're quite similar to the ones we see in Rebels as well, that obviously guard the ship. I can't remember what the Wing Cafu job, I think the episode is. And they're like DT sentry droids. And these obviously aren't the Dark Trooper thing. I don't know. I don't even think they've maybe not even started developing the Dark Trooper. Maybe it's just a concept idea, because in The Mandalorian, it originally says that the Dark Troopers have people in them. So,
yeah. So I'm thinking maybe like we have droids here, and then down the line they try to put people in them as the Empire starts hiring people to be soldiers, not clones. And then obviously, by the time you get a Mandalorian, they've gone full circle back to droids again, perhaps.
Yeah, because Dr. Pershing says in The Mandalorian, obviously the weakness of the Dark Troopers originally was the human in the suit. So now it's just straight up droids.
Yep. Let's get to Omega. So here are some of my thoughts with Omega. Obviously, we find out that Omega is a clone who's been genetically altered. So she's the same as the Bad Batch. She's got what's the word? She's got
mutation.
Mutations, yeah. Obviously, they don't tell us what it is. We also find out that she works as an assistant to the medical team on Kamino.
Yeah, I think that's obviously the cover, because they say that we've got 5 altered clones, and Tarkin, I think, assumes Echo is one of them, but it's not. It's obviously they're trying to keep that secret for whatever reason. Obviously, I have my own personal theories about Omega, whether maybe she is a Force-sensitive clone or something like that. But yeah, they're obviously trying. The Kaminoans obviously keeping that one close to the chest for some reason, which obviously we'll find out over the course of the show.
Well, I think Omega. I think there's definitely a chance she is Force sensitive. We find out when the Bad Batch are getting ready to leave to go to Onderon on the mission for Tarkin. She goes to tell Hunter something, and then she chooses not to. Almost as if she's seen what's going to happen or knows what's on Onderon. She hints at it that she's going to tell him something important, then she chooses not to. So that was my first inkling of is she had a premonition, or is she having a vision? She knows something here, and then is chose not to tell him. Maybe because she thinks it'll be hard to explain, how she knows this and has this information. And then obviously later on, when she's talking to Crosshair when they're in the jail, she obviously tells Crosshair she knows what he's going to do, and that he shouldn't be. I can't remember the exact words, but something like, "I know what you're going to do. Try and fight it, but
yeah,
if you can't, I understand. Don't worry." So again, sort of almost if she can not read his mind, but again, sort of a forced premonition, a forced feeling, knowing what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking that obviously, so I think it's teasing the force sensitivity there, perhaps, and that would certainly tie into the rise of Skywalker and the fact that Palpatine wants to experiment with force cloning.
Oh yeah, if the Empire gets wind that there's a Force-sensitive clone out there, I imagine Palpatine would be very, very interested in finding out how that came about.
Well, I think maybe he's behind this one. I've got a feeling Palpatine's behind Omega. Tarkin won't know because he doesn't want anyone else to know about it, but I've got a feeling that Palpatine's maybe behind Omega. And I think if you think about the fact that Omega has shown these brief glimpses of perhaps having force abilities, being force sensitive, and then also the fact she is assisting the medical, she works for the medical guy. She's not working in combat, and that brings me like the force healing idea. Maybe they've got a clone and they're working on force healing.
Yeah, that's definitely an idea. But yeah, I'm leading to believe that she will be a force sensitive clone, and that's why the Kaminoans are keeping it close to the chest to obviously see how things shake out with the Empire.
Yeah, if Omega is force sensitive, do you think they're just a case of? I mean, let's just talk about the obvious first. Obviously, you know, Omega is a female, not a male, so it's the first female clone we've seen on Kamino.
Yep.
Do we think it is from the same DNA and just a female version, or do we think it's a different DNA?
Well, are you saying is it different to Jango Fett? I'm not quite sure because she does have a different accent. It's obviously the Jango Fett clones, and that and maybe they've killed a Jedi and they obviously tried to. Obviously, they've done experiments and that. Maybe the Sith used Cypher Deus's body or something.
Well, I mean, I don't know about a different accent. Obviously, she has a female voice, not a male voice. But they went out and hired a New Zealand person to be this female clone in New Zealander, and obviously Jango Fett is a New Zealander.
Yeah, I'd probably when you say it like that, I probably would be led to believe that she probably is a Jango clone. Maybe they've crossed DNA with someone and that, or maybe it's just the Force. Obviously, has just decided. Obviously, the Force has its own will, and maybe the Force has just decided that they'll just make from Omega Force sensitive.
Yeah, or maybe they've took Django, crossed over some DNA to make a female embryo, and then maybe they've injected it with midichlorians.
Maybe, yeah. I definitely think that obviously they've been experimenting on all sorts of things. To be fair, so yeah, any theory really at the moment is valid until we find out. Obviously, the story with her.
Yeah, I think that on purpose. I think they've hired New Zealand on purpose to sort of tie it into the original Django and Clone's accent. Obviously, D. Bradley Baker's not New Zealander, but he's doing a New Zealand accent when he's playing them, which you could see just hire a New Zealander, but they haven't. But yeah, so I think I don't know if that's to throw us off or maybe just tie in something's happening here type of thing. What's going on? You know what Dave Filoni's like? Nothing's by accident, but it could just be there to throw us off a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with it.
So yeah, moving on there. So what's your, obviously we've talked a bit about Omega's possible origins there. What were your thoughts on it as a character?
Loved her. Yeah, she's really sweet. She's funny. She obviously loves the Bad Batch. Obviously, she knows who they are when they get back to Kamino. She knows all the names, and she obviously takes an interest in them because she probably knows that she is like them. Obviously, genetically mutated, but yeah, I love the character, and it's only grown more since I've obviously seen episode 2 this morning. But no, I think she's a fantastic new character, and I already really care about the character, which is a great thing to do. Because I cared about Ezra Bridger come the end of Rebels, but the first couple of episodes I didn't really care about Ezra Bridger. But this Omega, no, I care about her straight off the bat.
Do you feel that we're going to see Omega in some turmoil and peril this season?
Yeah, 100%. I'm led to believe that they will not keep this secret forever. Whatever is the deal with Omega will come out. And then I'm guessing if it is a Force-sensitive clone, I'm guessing we could possibly see Inquisitors go after the Bad Batch, or maybe even Vader himself, which will not end well for the Bad Batch.
No, definitely not.
Because I don't see them living past the show, if you know what I mean. Because they're just too powerful. You imagine what the Bad Batch could do if they worked for the Rebellion. The war would be over within half the time. So, but no, I just don't see them living. So if it becomes too big and obviously Vader starts tracking them, all the Inquisitors, then I obviously could see the Bad Batch giving their life for Omega.
I'm just going
Yeah, I just said that obviously I think the Bad Batch won't survive the events of the show. I don't think they will anyway, because like I said they're too powerful to stick around.
Right.
It's a lot like the Kanan and Ezra thing in Rebels. They can't still be about during the original trilogy. Obviously, Kanan's dead and Ezra is lost somewhere with Grand Admiral Thrawn. So I would lead to believe that I could see them giving their life up for Omega at some point in the show. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think if the Bad Batch were part of the rebellion, we would have heard them by now. Obviously, we know Rex gets involved with the rebellion. Nowhere there does he mention this Bad Batch.
Yeah, you'd think if Rex knew where these guys were, you think that'd be the first call he'd make.
Definitely. Do you think we will see Omega maybe get captured by the dark side?
Yeah, eventually. I do think we'll obviously see her in peril. I don't see him keeping hold of her the whole time, obviously. And like I said, if our suspicions are correct and she is a Force-sensitive clone, then I can imagine the Empire really wanting her back, and they won't just send stormtroopers or clones. They'll send the likes of Inquisitors, bounty hunters, Vader, and all that type of thing.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe Omega, rather than trying to, because obviously the Inquisitor program at this case in point probably isn't in operation yet. They're probably still looking at who they can turn to become Inquisitors. Obviously, Order 66 is still fresh. I wonder if maybe they're looking at maybe the Palpatine was like, if we can clone some dark side clones, like force sensitive clones, then they can become the Inquisitors. Don't have to turn anybody, just make them.
Actually, mate, from the Darth Vader comic in Charles Soule, the Inquisitor is already in place straight after Order 66.
Straight after.
So they're already out there. The Grand Inquisitor is there. They have obviously the second sister. It's literally straight after Order 66. They have these Inquisitors ready to go.
Fantastic.
That's if they follow the comic, obviously.
Well, yeah, as we've seen at the beginning of this episode, sort of straying away from the comics now. So I wonder, it goes to show that anything's on the table and off the table, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it depends if they want to follow the comics, but yeah, as of straight after Order 66, the Inquisitors are in place and ready to rock.
So we obviously have, after the live fire test that the Bad Batch get put through by Tarkin, they then get sent on a mission to Onderon to take out a group of separatist spies or separatist rebels. Obviously, as soon as they said Onderon, everybody's mind goes to Saw Gerrera.
That's what mine did, mate. Totally. Yeah, I was like, obviously we've seen him in the trailer, but as soon as they said Onderon, it was pretty obvious that we would be seeing Saw Gerrera. Obviously, Clone War style Saw Gerrera, changing his voice up a little bit. It's obviously morphed into Forrest Whitaker later on, but yeah, it was really good to see. Obviously, there's all these connections, and like us nerds and that. As soon as you hear Onderon, Insurgents, you think, okay, it's Saw Gerrera.
Yeah, so I think they brought back Andrew Cascino to voice Saw Gerrera from the Clone Wars for his role here. How did you feel about the whole Onderon mission and when they got there? What was sort of your thoughts on how that played out?
I knew it would be I knew that would be the reason, obviously, because I knew, obviously, they said they lied to the Bad Batch, say they're separatists and that, and obviously the Bad Batch straight away, they're Republic fighters. And Saw Gerrera says, obviously, if they lie to you about that, what else are they going to lie to you about? Obviously, sets up the Bad Batch's, it's hard to say treason, because they're not being treasonous, because they're treasonous towards the Empire, but they never agreed to serve the Empire. But it's just, obviously, Tarkin setting them up for a test that he probably knew that they were going to fail, because they were obviously thinking they're going to go take out droids. And then it's a big difference taking out droids and then taking out civilians who obviously haven't done anything really. They obviously helped the Republic win the war, and then as soon as the Empire turned in, they turned on these people and labelled them insurgents.
Yep. So obviously, we get there. I think once the Bad Batch speak with Saw Gerrera and see what's happening on Onderon, they decide to leave, not do the mission, and return home to Camino to return to Omega. Obviously, while they're there on Onderon, you have Crosshairs again showing these signs of being susceptible to the obedience programming that's in his chip in his head. So they leave, they come back home, and as soon as they get back, they're arrested for treason. And then we have Crosshair ends up sort of getting put in a surgical bed and has his programming enhanced by talking.
Yeah, I've turned up to 11, his inhibitor chip, because they obviously explained that due to the Bad Batch's mutations, that they're not as susceptible to the inhibitor chips. They do have the inhibitor chips, but they're not as susceptible to them because of just genetic mutations and all that type of thing. Crosshairs is the one chip that's been working the most. It's still not working at full power. That's why obviously Tarkin has him strapped down and obviously turned his chip all the way up to, I'm guessing, 10 to get him to obviously join up with the Empire.
Yeah, I thought this was very tragic. I mean, I'm not a fan of Crosshair anyway, but I think the fact that, Tarkin doesn't even like these clones. He wants to get rid of the clones. Tarkin wants to bring in normal subscription from the people of the Empire to become the army. But here he is. He doesn't believe in clones, but here he is. He was going to torture one and make one do things he doesn't want to do. Just showing you Tarkin's real mean streak right here.
Oh yeah, he's definitely. He obviously sees these. He doesn't see them as people. They're just assets to use up and then get rid of once their purpose has been realised.
We then have a whole sort of escape sequence where the Bad Batch escape from the prison cell with Omega's help. She proves herself to be a good part of the team here. What did you make of the escaping from prison and the escaping Camino in the end of the episode?
Yeah, it was. I liked it. Obviously, we've seen a lot of rebels. They seem to get arrested every other week, so we've seen a lot of prison breaks. I like the fact that they used the logic of obviously Camino obviously was retrofitted. They're not real jails. They're not real jail cells. These things. So it's very easy for them. They're obviously not taking into account obviously Wrecker's strength. So that obviously is a nice little thing to set up. Like, oh well, obviously they're not proper. It's not a proper prison facility. It's just retrofitted. I'm guessing like offices on Camino, so they're easily able to break out of that straight out. Make quick work of it, get the gear on. Obviously, Crosshair, obviously confronted by Crosshair, who is now full on Empire. I love the uniform he has. It's very Dark Trooper inspired. It's obviously a very early variant of the Dark Troopers that will eventually become like Imperial Special Forces. And I really enjoyed it. Obviously, Omega, we see a bit more of her ability. She's able to shoot the rifle out of Crosshair's hand just as he's about to kill one of the Bad Batch. I can't remember which one he's about to kill. So she obviously stops that, and then obviously away they go. And just a quick point in this, like obviously we talk about the animation. Like the animation is even better than Clone Wars Season 7. It looks absolutely amazing. Camino looks unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely. I think like one of the things on the off is just how smooth and how beautiful the animation is. I think what I loved about the escape was, I don't know why they've put all the Bad Batch in the same cell together. Like, there's one thing we've learned from watching them is that they work well as a team. Each one complements the other. So you put them all in the same cell and they're able to break out.
It's very A-Team. They used to like lock all the A-Team up together in a barn with all these tools and that, and then wonder, they've built something to escape.
Definitely. I loved how when they're just about to escape, we have Crosshair turn up. He's now no longer Crosshair. He's now this Imperial war machine, hunting, doing talking, and the Emperor's bidding. I think he looks a cross between like a Dark Trooper, a Death Trooper, and a Purge Trooper. I thought he was like a cross between all of them. I got those vibes where he's like, they've definitely made this guy. They took him from looking like a Republic trooper and made him look like an Imperial trooper now.
Definitely, mate, 100%.
And then I loved how like Omega grabs a blaster and shoots perfect shot to disarm Crosshair. She doesn't want to kill Crosshair. She disarms him. And again, I think that's like maybe the Force. You know, she's able to pick a blaster up and like take a shot using the will of the Force. And I think she hasn't wanted to kill him because maybe she feels there's still good in him down the line.
Yeah, obviously the conversation you touched on, obviously she knows it's not his fault. So yeah, she obviously disarms him. Yeah, so like I said, it's not his fault. She knows it's not his fault. So she's too innocent of a character to take him out. She just obviously disarms him, probably hoping that later down the line they can get hold of him and get his chip out and get him back to the team.
Yeah. So that's how the episode ends. It ends with the Bad Batch fleeing in their shuttle.
J19.
Yep.
I didn't know what J19 was, but as soon as I saw it on Twitter, obviously the Seleucumai system is in J19. So obviously, as soon as I found that out, it goes into today's episode where we head to Seleucumai to see one of our clone deserters.
Yeah, so before we go into episode 2, what's your final thoughts on episode 1, Aftermath?
Loved it. It really suckered me in. I was looking forward to the show anyway because I love this era in Star Wars. I love the Dark Times era, Jedi Fallen Order, and all that type of thing that around this era. But this is the first look we've got of like the immediate aftermath of the Empire's rise to power. Like we literally see it. We see the speech from Revenge of the Sith. So it's literally as the Empire is being born. So that's something hugely exciting to me, is to see obviously how the clones and how they go from all the Venators, the Star Destroyers and all that type of thing, and how we see the rise of the Empire and obviously the beginning, obviously the very beginning of the spark of rebellion. So yeah, it was massive. I really enjoyed it, mate. 100% had me hooked. I was looking forward to today's episode now, and yeah, I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
Fantastic. So today's episode was episode 2. It was called Cut and Run. It was directed by Brad Rao and written by Jennifer Corbett. That was released today, May 7th. Yeah, essentially we see the Bad Batch. They're heading to those coordinates as they teased in the previous episode. What's the planet called where they meet Cut and Sue?
Seleucumai.
And have you seen this planet before in the Clone Wars?
Yeah, obviously we meet Cut in Clone Wars season 2 in the episode. I think it's season 2 episode The Deserter. It's where Obi-Wan tracks General Grievous to the planet, and obviously they try and capture him, but Grievous ends up escaping. So yeah, we have seen this planet before. We've obviously seen it in the old style Clone Wars animation. Now we see it in the new one, and it, like I said, absolutely stunning. I love this. Is one of the cooler things about the Bad Batch as well. Obviously, we've seen these locations before in the earlier Clone Wars with the older animation style, which for the time was amazing. But it's amazing to see these locations updated with the new animated, the new quality, the new higher quality animation.
Yeah, I think you got to remember that like Lucasfilm didn't have an animation department, so you know for the Clone Wars, George created Lucasfilm Animation, hired Dave Filoni, and they essentially designed their own animation from scratch. So as you go through the Clone Wars, it gets better as they get better at what they're building.
Yeah, like I said,
they're very good at what they do today because it's 15 years later.
Yeah, like I said, at the time, obviously that animation at the time was cutting edge, but now obviously they just keep getting better and better and better. And like George says, we don't have an animation department. We'll create one, and it'll be one of the leading ones. It'll lead the way. So typical George Lucas. We'll do this, we'll do it, and then we'll do it, and we're one of the best in the business at it now. So he's just the man's a genius. What do you say?
Definitely. So obviously, like this episode, I thought was really some of the things I found interesting about this episode was obviously we get to see Cut again. He's got a family with Sue now.
Yeah, he had the obviously though he was obviously married to Sue. I don't know about married, but he was with Sue, and obviously we see the kids in the Clone Wars. Obviously, younger versions, and now they're a bit older. A couple of years have gone by, and it's nice to revisit these characters.
Obviously, Cut reveals that the Chameleons implanted inhibitor chips inside the clone troopers, and that's why the clones turned against the Jedi so easily. Obviously, we find out that Rex is the one who's told them, and Rex has been through. So we get our first reference to Clone Captain Rex here.
Yeah, he says he's been through like the day before.
So it sounds to me that Rex is on a mission to go to all the clones he knows and maybe help them take the chips out.
Yeah, I think that'll be a part of the show. We'll obviously see Rex in the trailer, so the Bad Batch eventually catch up to Rex, and I think that could be Rex's mission, is to go see the likes of Cody and all that to try and get him. Obviously, I don't think it'll work with all of them. I think a lot of them, because at the moment people think Rex is dead. I think they think he faked his own death. Him and Ahsoka have faked their own death and gone their separate ways. And I think obviously it'll be him going to see like Cody, Wolf, Gregor, and all that, trying to get them to take the chips out.
Were you quite surprised that Rex get mentioned so soon?
No, not really. As soon as I didn't think we'd be seeing Cutler Quane in the second episode, to be fair. So I think it would be more likely we saw Rex first. So yeah, no, not surprised. I don't think it'll be long until we see Captain Rex in this show, and it'll be really cool, obviously, seeing him back and obviously finding out what his purpose is, because that was the whole premise of the Bad Batch. Clones trying to find their purpose in a new galaxy, and I think his purpose is obviously what you touched on, going to try and find his brothers to free them of this control of the Empire.
Yeah, I thought this episode did a great job of setting up the Empire as the Nazis, as the bad guys that they are now, and how these clones are just now doing the work of really bad people. They're setting up that the whole point that every ship now needs a transponder number, needs to be registered, and every person needs to be registered and have a number as well. It's very much like the Jews in the concentration camps having their identification number tattooed onto them.
Yeah, obviously they say chain code, which is obviously what we heard in The Mandalorian. Boba Fett talks about having his chain code in his armor for 25 years. So obviously everyone needs a chain code now to get around, which obviously makes sense if you're a fascist government organisation. You obviously want to keep track of all your civilians. You want to know where people are. You want to know who the troublemakers are so you can take them out. It's a lot easier just to register them, and obviously then you have a data. Even Tech says it said you could have a database of every person in the galaxy, which is obviously something the Empire would want. It obviously touches into Alphabet Squadron, the third book. Obviously, of the Sentinel droids from like Shattered Empire and that, the red robe Sentinel droids.
Yep.
It goes into that. Like, I don't know if we want to put a spoiler in it, but it goes into the whole thing is obviously trying to find out why these Sentinel droids pick the Imperial officers to do Operation Cinder. And you obviously find out the Empire, literally every person in the Empire is tracked, their whole career, everything is analysed in this big database to find the ones who are more susceptible to obviously commit genocide and all that type of thing. So it's not even just the civilians that are doing this at the moment. The Empire is literally cataloguing every person in the Imperial organisation and seeing them. And obviously that builds the Operation Cinder to see who is more likely to carry out these atrocities in the name of the Empire.
Yeah, and I think obviously I love the fact when Tech does say, look, it's actually genius, like evil genius. But yeah, by getting everybody's chain codes and getting every ship chains code, you can essentially create a database of everybody in the galaxy.
And he definitely
use that database for evil.
Yeah, he definitely respects it, like, but he obviously knows it's wrong. But yeah, he like Tech's very analytical like that. He's like, it's wrong, but I see what they're doing.
Yeah. What did you make of we get to see Omega sort of interacting with other children here, which I think is perhaps the first time she's done that before. She probably is, because like she gets out the shuttle on Seleucumai and she's like, "What's this?" And they're like, "It's dirt," and just the joy on her face, like that's why she's going to be an amazing character, because it's just like living vicariously through her
Like, she doesn't know any of this stuff. She's been on Camino her whole life. Like, all she's seen is bloody water and rain. And, like, just to see, it's a really wholesome moment. And that's, obviously, this show, I tend to believe this show's a bit more mature, but it's still very susceptible to kids. And kids can, like, obviously live through Omega. And that's why whenever I hear, oh, they're making this for children, that's the whole point. That is what it's made for. Obviously, it's accessible to everyone, but coming from the actual guy who created Star Wars before, it's all made for kids. So it's great to have that character for kids to live vicariously through, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I thought the line when she comes off the ship and sees the dirt, and she's like, "What's this?" and like dirt, and she's like loving the dirt and kicking the dirt. It reminded me of The Force Awakens when Rey says, "I've never seen so much green in my entire life." When to land on Takodana.
Yeah, it's very similar to that. Obviously, yeah, Rey's lived in a desert her whole life, so yeah, any time you don't take that you take that a bit for granted with these characters that have lived in these. Obviously, I'm not saying Omega's had a bad life, but she lived on Camino. Literally, I don't think she would probably gone outside that much of her life, let alone I've seen trees and grass and all that type of thing.
Definitely. Well, if I remember correctly, I'm sure in the last episode they hinted that it's Omega's first time in space when she's on the shuttle.
Yeah, so she obviously never been off Camino.
So she's never been off Camino. So this is obviously something new. And then obviously you get to interact with some children, which is good. We get a bit of fatherhood lessons for Hunter here, where we see, we see Omega getting a bit of trouble with some of the wildlife on
yeah, it was a bit like that. I can't remember what they're called. The cat creature from Attack of the Clones.
Is it the Nexu?
Yeah, I think it is a Nexu. Yeah, I think it's like a variant, like a Seleucumai variant of the Nexu.
Yeah, so we see, obviously they're playing a ball game, and she goes out to get the ball from out the fence, and obviously ends up getting attacked by what we believe to be a Nexu, and obviously she gets saved. But we see Hunter give her a bit of a dressing down, and then we see Cut is like, no, like you've got to just give them hugs and tell them it's good. I'm glad that you're all right. So we see Hunter starting to learn about fatherhood here.
Yeah, obviously this relationship between Hunter and Omega is going to be like the emotional core of the, much like Grogu and Din in The Mandalorian. It's going to be the emotional core of this story.
It certainly is, and it's sort of typical of Star Wars. If you think about it, as you mentioned, Din and Grogu. There's also, we see it with Obi-Wan and Anakin. We see it with Qui-Gon Jinn and Anakin. We see it with, you could say, Snoke and Ben Solo.
Yeah.
We see it with Luke and Ben Solo when Luke's trying to give him lessons at the end of The Last Jedi. So yeah, it's obviously something that's, fatherhood's a big deal in Star Wars. It has been since the beginning. Luke goes on the adventure because he wants to be like his father. Obviously, at the time, Obi-Wan tells him that his father was killed by Darth Vader, and his father was Anakin, and a good guy. And then obviously it all turns around even more on the father thing come Empire Strikes Back when we find out the truth.
Yeah.
And obviously we find out, in the sequel trilogy, we have a case of, Han Solo steps out there to save his son, and his son ends up killing him.
Yeah.
So very much a case of like fatherhood. And we're going to see that here. We're going to see, I imagine as the episodes go on, we're going to see Hunter get the grips with fatherhood more, as he sort of, not only will we see Omega get the grips with the galaxy she's now in, we're going to see Hunter get the grips with helping Omega through this new galaxy.
Yeah.
So we find out that everyone needs chain codes now, which is essentially, as I said before, it's like everyone has an own individual identification number, and that's how you get about. Obviously, Cut and Sue don't have them. Obviously, Cut is a deserter. So the last thing they want is getting, he is a deserter, and he's a clone who's no longer in the clone army. So, like, 2 counts of the Empire wanting to kill him if they find out. So they make a plan to essentially sneak into the spaceport and create their own codes to get Cut, Sue, and the kids off the planet.
Yeah, you have a bit of a forging mission, Echo and Tech go on a forging mission, trying to get the chain codes for obviously to get them off Seleucumai before they obviously lock everything down. Because eventually, if they stay on Seleucumai long enough, they're going to find out that Cut is a clone. He almost gets caught at the end of the episode, but the clones have to run off to fight the Bad Batch. So he almost gets caught then because the clone says to him, "You look really familiar." And but yeah, they have to get off Seleucumai.
What did you make of the whole sort of the hacking side of it? Obviously, Tech and Echo sort of stealing the stuff and making their own chain codes for. Obviously, they make chain codes for Cut, Sue, and the kids. They also make one for Omega from with the family.
Because Hunter wants Omega to go with the family, and in the end she does end up leaving with the family, but then she comes back because she wants to be with her new family, and that's obviously where we leave it. But no, I liked that whole thing of obviously them helping out their brothers, helping out their brother Cut. It was a funny line at the start of the episode where Echo's like, "Oh, you trust a deserter?" and Tech's like, "Well, we're all deserters now." So yeah, it's getting over that thing of, oh, he's a deserter and all that type of thing. The Grand Army of the Republic doesn't exist anymore, so they're all deserters.
What were some of your favourite things from this episode?
I like seeing Seleucumai again. I really enjoyed that in the updated thing. I like going to see Cutler Quane. It's always something I've wondered ever since the Clone Wars, or what happened to Cutler Quane. It is quite funny because obviously Alex at Star Wars Explained always says he gets questions about Cutler Quane all the time. What happened to him? So now he can actually answer those questions, which is a cool little thing. I loved just the whole Omega emotional arc, and like I said, I'm already so invested in this character. She's like so precious. She needs to be protected at all costs because she is like obviously the emotional core. They need Omega in this show because if it was just obviously the Bad Batch going around, it wouldn't be as interesting. And now we're obviously going to see Hunter, Tech, Wrecker, and Echo become like a family, if you know what I mean. Like obviously we see the Phoenix Squadron in Rebels, obviously Hera, Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, Chopper, and Kanan obviously become a family, and we're going to see these like obviously we're obviously going to see these obviously fairly one-dimensional characters introduced in the Clone Wars turn into, I think, top draw characters, and by the end of it, whatever their fate will be, I think this show could be one of the best animated shows ever.
How have you enjoyed the score for the first two episodes? Obviously, Kevin Kiner is back doing the score.
Unbelievable. Picked up where he left off for Clone Wars season 7. He's the one who just gets Star Wars, and the Bad Batch theme song is one of my favorite ones of all time already. I love that theme song, and yeah, I think that's one thing you can't really criticize anything. I don't think any of the Star Wars films on it have been scored badly. You've obviously got Ludwig doing The Mandalorian, which has been unbelievable, totally different, but obviously still feels like Star Wars. And I can't wait to see what else they bring out. Obviously, Ahsoka will need scoring and all that type of thing. So yeah, I've loved all the scores so far.
What are you hoping to see in the next episode 3 of Bad Batch?
I'm guessing there'll be. I've seen obviously there was a little trailer released during the week, and we see them heading off to speak to like a Trandoshan. Obviously, they're going to need to earn money in this new galaxy. Obviously, they're used to the Republic footing the bill for everything, so they're going to have to start. Obviously, they need money for fuel and food and all that type of thing. So I can see them maybe starting to take up some jobs in the criminal underworld.
Yeah, do you think they'll go like full A-team and become heroes for hire?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that happening. Obviously, I know for the crime syndicates, as soon as they get a load of these people, will know how valuable these people are and how much damage they could do for a Crimson Dawn, for a Hutt cartel, whether they want to work for those people, but they're going to have to make those tough decisions and make those tough decisions in obviously a new changing galaxy.
Definitely. So obviously we've got like a full 7 days now before the next episode airs next Friday. which will be Friday the 14th.
It will be.
So obviously we'll be back to review episode 3. I can't see a title for it yet. There might be leaks out there with the titles, but I'd rather find out when I watch it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Not have any potential things spoiled, especially when you look at how good the titles were for the Mandalorian episodes, when they really sort of dived into what was going to happen in that episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like, if they'd leaked the Mandalorian titles, then it'd have been like, all right, well, this is when Thingy turns up. This is when Thingy turns up. This is when this happens. So yeah, I'd rather just go in blind.
Do you think we'll see? What's the chances? Think we'll see Inquisitors in this series? Because we've hinted at it before. Maybe we might. Do you think there's a good chance or a slim chance?
I think there might be a good chance, depending. Obviously, it all depends on Omega. If we find out she's Force sensitive, then I have to believe that we'll see Inquisitors on the tail of the Bad Batch.
I just don't know what else it could be with that. There's something not right, if you know what I mean. There's something they're saying that's just special in some way. So
Yeah.
I don't know what that way could be, unless she's Force sensitive.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So it's going to be, who knows? I can't wait to find out what it is, whether it's Force sensitive or something else. But when we find out Omega's secrets, I think it's going to be mind blowing. I'm excited.
And obviously, we see Vader at the end of the Clone Wars, but they made a whole Darth Vader model for a minute thing at the end of the Clone Wars. So I think we'll see Darth Vader eventually. Maybe not this season. It'll be a bit like Rebels, probably. It'll build up gradually, because at the beginning it's just like Agent Callus is the villain, and then come the end of Rebels, you got Emperor Palpatine as the baddie. So I think there's a chance we'll see Vader and all that type of thing.
Which Bad Batch figure do you want the most?
I would like a record, to be fair. I would like to buy him, but like I said, I'm trying to limit my Star Wars purchases at the moment. Yourself, mate?
I think I'd want Echo. I find it really weird how he's got one hand and then he's got a droid inputting tool for his other hand.
Yeah.
What I want to see happen is I want down the line to have to have interchangeable hands, maybe hands with a big bazooka on the end, maybe a human hand, maybe you can have a sword that goes in there, interchangeable hands depending on the mission. He picks a different hand, almost
Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, Inspector Gadget, or Thunderbird. So Thunderbird 2 carries usually Thunderbird 4 in its cargo hold, but depending on the job, it can carry loads of different things: helicopters, diggers, all different kinds of things. So maybe he can have an interchangeable hand that, depending on what the mission is, he can sort of chop and change. I think would be pretty cool.
I saw the Hot Toys Echo, and they did have interchangeable hands, so maybe that is something that's coming. Yeah, he had a battering ram hand and all that type of thing. So
who was your favorite character in episode 2?
I think Omega takes it on this one. Yeah, just for the pure childlike innocence of seeing obviously the dirt and getting into trouble, and then coming back, and then obviously saying she wants to be with the Bad Batch, and then Hunter's like, well, this is where you're going to be then. So she's part of the team now. He's accepted that that's where she wants to be. I don't think we're going to keep having these episodes where he's like, right, go with this person, go with that person. I think she's part of the team now.
Yeah, and I don't even think he wanted that to go with Cut and Sue because he didn't want that. I think it's because he generally thinks that. I think it was obviously a lesson for him how he dealt with the incident with the Nexu. And I think he was really I'm not a good person to raise a child. So the best thing for this child is to be with someone who can raise her properly. So I think it was more about him, not her. But obviously she's decided, no, I'm staying with you guys. I'm part of the team, part of the family. And then I think we're going to see him really grow into that father figure now.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree, mate. I couldn't put it any better than that.
Any closing thoughts on the Bad Batch so far?
Just 100% all in, love it. And I can't wait for episode 3 now. And it's nice just to have some Star Wars back to get excited about every week. So me and you have got something to talk about on this podcast, and obviously enjoy the show.
Definitely. Do you know how many episodes there is left?
There is apparently 16 episodes, so there is 14 left.
And apparently they're going to run from anywhere between 21 minutes and 75 minutes, I think. So obviously the debut episode was 70 minutes, and then this one was about half an hour, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah.
It
was about 29 minutes, but that's the good thing about this. They're the runtime. Like I know with Marvel, like they say, oh, it's a 45-minute episode, but it's not really because the intro takes 2 minutes and the credits at the end take 6 minutes. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice, obviously, when you get close to the runtime. So say it's 30 minutes, you're talking 27 minutes of action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm led to believe there is 16 episodes, so we've got a long while left. If they're going to do one a week, then we've got a lot to talk about for the next, what is it, would be three and a half months?
Yep. And I've not heard anything, but we got a extra long opening episode, 70 minutes mini movie for the first episode. Do you think we'll get the same for the finale?
Obviously, it just depends on it. Whether I would assume the finale would be longer. They normally split like the finales into like 2 episodes. They did it with Rebels a couple of times. They did it with Clone Wars. They did it obviously with Clone Wars. They obviously were 20-minute episodes, but the whole Siege of Mandalore arc is one big movie. To be fair, so that is, yeah, I probably would led to believe that the ending will be longer.
Yeah. Do you think we'll see Saw Gerrera again?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think we will. They're obviously in the little mini trailer that was released during the week. They say we need friends, and his face pops up. So I'm guessing they will go. They'll go find Saw Gerrera eventually.
That'll be good. Was there anything else in that mini trailer that caught your attention?
There was like a baby Rancor, which was pretty sick. There's obviously there's a bit more of like the Zygerian slavers. There was obviously AT-ATs walking down Boulevard that looks a lot like Raxus, which is obviously the Separatist homeworld. So there's a lot going to be happening.
Yeah, I think when I first saw that clip, I thought it was maybe Naboo. But obviously got a bit mixed up. But obviously, yeah, that is the Separatist homeworld Raxus, yeah?
I'm led to believe. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, it's crazy to think the state of the galaxy from the first episode to obviously it moving from the Republic to the Empire in name, in how the military starting to change straight away. And then obviously this episode 2, the state of the galaxy is not only are the Empire changing themselves, like their infrastructure, but they're also starting to implement infrastructure on the people of the galaxy now straight away. Like they are bringing in these chain codes, they are registering ships, and they're forcing people to do it. It's like they've stopped freedom of movement, so like you can't move unless you have a chain code. Where before you could, like before Order 66, you could.
Yeah, before that you just took off and that was it.
Yeah, so obviously, it's interesting to see how we're going to see the galaxy change more as the season goes on. I'm looking forward to maybe every episode we can look at like the state of the galaxy. There's a nice little discussion piece, but I think obviously we've seen how it's changed already in just 2 episodes, and it's been good to see. Obviously, Rex has been through this planet here. He's spoken to Cut, and then he's went on his travels next. Obviously, Cut didn't say where Rex was going next. Do you think maybe Cut give him some information about other clones that might need his help?
Yeah, probably. I'm led to believe, yeah, he probably would tell Rex, obviously, how he could help other clones. Obviously, Rex told Cut about the chips and that. So I wonder whether, I'm guessing Cut's chip didn't work, maybe because he's been so long removed from the Republic. It obviously didn't work. There's no Jedi around anywhere. So unless he took his chip out, but I'm guessing they would have made a deal of, obviously Rex came and took my chip out. So I'm guessing his chip just doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see like the next lot of clones we're going to see who aren't part of the army. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if we do come across any Jedi in the rest of the season.
I'd love to see like a Quinlan Vos. That'd be pretty sick.
It would be awesome. Yeah, I think that's us wrapped up these first 2 episodes of The Bad Batch. Episode 1, Aftermath, and episode 2, Cut and Run. Obviously, episode 3 is next Friday, the 14th. Very excited to watch that. And we'll be back with another review of that. Just before we wrap up, Ian, have you purchased any Star Wars merchandise since we last spoke?
No, nothing, mate. Like I said, I had that really busy week where I got the Bad Batch posters, the Mandalorian Black Series helmet, and that. Nothing at the moment. I think I do have a Black Series figure coming in May it's the Mall publishing one, obviously that's taken from the comics, but other than that, mate, nothing at the moment. Just taking it a bit easy. I've obviously got a wedding to play for. I've got real life and all that type of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm a bit like you sometimes. Like I'd love this stuff, but I can't get it at the moment.
Is that the sexy topless Mall figure?
Yeah, that is. Yeah. I'm looking at the comic right now. Yeah, can't wait to get that.
Yeah, I've got mine on pre-order as well. For the guys who are listening, obviously, this week I was in Smith's Toys in the Gateshead branch, but obviously there's branches all across the country. And they had fully stocked on everything from Black Series figures to vintage collection figures to those new sort of galactic. I don't know what they're called, but you get like a mini figure and you get like a spaceship with it.
Did they have the Boba Fett?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to York on the weekend as well. So I might have to dip into Smith's.
Yep. And then they also had a restock of the toy Mandalorian Darksabers.
Yeah.
So I was meant to get one for my nephew for Christmas, but it's sold out, and I've not seen one since. And this week there was like a full selection on the shelf, so I grabbed one. So that's been dropped off for my nephew. He's been playing with that nicely, slicing up his toy snakes and stuff with the Darksaber.
Well, he's the ruler of Mandalore now, so.
Well, he is, yeah. So yeah, so definitely check out Smith's Toys. They've got a lot of stuff in there. And then obviously also, if you guys are collectors like me and you collect the Black Series, there's been a lot of pre-orders go up on wherever you get your figures from, whether it's, we often use Star Action figures here, but any other toy shop will have them available, I'd imagine. I think the full Bad Batch is available. You can get, I'm trying to think what else went up for pre-order.
I don't really know. I think a couple of the May 6th reveals, but there wasn't really that much revealed. May 6th, May 4th reveals, but there wasn't really that much revealed, to be fair.
Let's have a quick look.
But yeah, no, I might have a pop into Smith's at the weekend now. You said that. My laugh will thank you. No problem.
Well, I just hope they're all restocked like that one was, but I imagine if restock one store, they'll restock them all because it was like a full, like the shelf was full, every peg was full.
I'll have a look because you can obviously look online. I can look, obviously, I'll look at the Boba Fett and click and collect. And if it says it's in stock, because they do say it on the website. So I'll have a look. I'll have a look if they say, obviously, what's in stock, and I might have a pop in at the weekend. I might not get anything but it's just nice because I used to go out and look, obviously, when Toys R Us was about and Smith's was about. But then there was a point where there was no point in going because they never had anything. Literally nothing. So hopefully the Black Series have stepped up recently because they're doing a lot more characters that people are interested in. No offense to anyone, but how many Rebel soldiers can you buy? It's a bit. You want to buy characters, you know what I mean? That's why I've always bought the characters. I've never really bought the troopers or anything, unless it's obviously like a trooper we know, like Captain Rex. That's a trooper we know. But if it's just like generic stormtrooper, I'm not really that interested.
Well, here's a question. So I've just seen a figure that's up for pre-order. It is from the Bad Batch. It is Vice Admiral Rampart.
Yeah.
He comes with a blaster and a mouse droid. I'm pretty sure Vice Admiral Rampart we saw in episode 2. He was the hologram Imperial who was telling people about the chain codes.
That was him, yeah.
So if he's got his own figure, I imagine we're going to see him more than just that hologram.
You'd think, unless it's a Constable Zuvio type thing from The Force Awakens.
Possibly. But I wonder if he's in charge of the sector, and obviously he's going to hear about this firefight at the spaceport and how his ship got away, maybe he's going to be actively seeking to take down the Bad Batch on behalf of Tarkin.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe he's obviously the beginner villain that obviously will graduate all the way up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I wonder, I imagine Tarkin's not going to be very happy when he finds out that the Bad Batch were here and got away. So maybe it's going to be in Rogue One, we have that sort of relationship between Tarkin and Krennic. Maybe we're going to get a similar relationship between Tarkin and Vice Admiral Rampart.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, mate.
But yeah, so he's available for pre-order. Something you might like, the Night Brother Warrior from Jedi Fallen Order. He's available for pre-order.
Yeah, I saw that. Obviously, the Flame Trooper is up for pre-order as well, I think. Not yet, but it's about to be from Jedi Fallen Order. I do like them, but there's obviously bigger figures that I want. Obviously, I'm more of big characters driven type thing. I used to have tons of Black Series, but the only ones I've got in the box at the moment is the armorer for the Mandalorian, and Ahsoka, and I've got a Scarif Shore Trooper. from Rogue One at the moment. But I used to have tons. I used to have like 4 boxes, but I sold them all when I was buying my house. And there's a couple that I wish I hadn't got rid of. I used to have the Thrawn collector's one, the one with the big Thrawn one that came out a couple of years back. I used to have that, but I got rid of it and all that type of thing. But I wish I'd kept that one, to be honest.
Is that the Thrawn Black Series Comic-Con exclusive?
Yeah, I used to have that one, yeah.
You got rid of it?
Yeah, I was buying my house at the time, and I was getting rid of them all. And it was coming to the point where I was buying too many, and it was getting too expensive, and I got out of it for a bit. But I wish I'd kept that one, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've still got the Obi-Wan. To tell a lie, I've still got the Kylo Ren Celebration exclusive one and the Obi-Wan Kenobi Celebration exclusive one as well in the box. But other than that, no, I haven't got that many at the moment. It's too expensive at the moment. But when I'm planning a wedding, I have to pick and choose which ones I get. But hopefully, once I get the wedding out of the way, no offense, I don't mean that. So, Lucy, if you hear that, I don't mean it that way. If you know what I mean. But hopefully, I can get back into getting a few more.
Yeah, I've been collecting vintage Star Wars figures. So, Star Wars figures from sort of 1977 to 1984.
Oh, you mean like the original vintage?
Yeah, like the original vintage.
You don't mean like the vintage collection that they've got?
Yeah, so no, the actual figures from 1977 to 1984. So I've already got quite a few.
They're not really expensive to get. I thought they'd be really expensive.
Some, obviously, these are just loose.
Yeah.
And in varying different conditions. But yeah, they can be expensive and they can be cheap. I think you've got to just keep an eye out. And when you see a price, shop about a bit because there's usually a similar figure for a lower price. But yeah, I think obviously listeners, if you want to, obviously the Star Wars podcast has a TikTok now, and I've been sort of going through our vintage collection journey on TikTok, so check that out on there. There's also like a funny video on there as well. Hopefully, we'll do more of them as more vintage collection comes. We'll do more of that. Ian, where can people find you on social media?
I am on social media, obviously at Star Wars Ian, all lowercase. That's on Twitter and Instagram, and obviously I'm a part of the Star Wars social media as well.
Fantastic. Well, Ian, thank you very much for coming and talking Star Wars with me today. It's always a pleasure.
Anytime, buddy.
Obviously, looking forward to next week's episode and looking forward to recording a review about it.
Yeah, me too, mate. Like I said, I'm all in with the Bad Batch. So yeah, it's really fun to have Star Wars back to talk about.
It certainly is, mate. And the best thing about it is, obviously, I don't know if you've seen, but there's been like set pictures from the Andor series getting filmed on the south coast of England, I think.
Yeah, it's 2 hours from my house. I put that up on Twitter yesterday. Obviously, the Shore Troopers. It's just up from Blackpool they're filming, I think. So, yeah, that's hugely exciting. Like I said, I've stood on that beach, so I've stood exactly where Cassian Andor is currently stood.
Yeah, so obviously, we've got TV shows around the corner. So once, we've got another good few weeks of Bad Batch left, but before long we're going to be talking about the next Star Wars project, which is absolutely fantastic, plenty to talk about. But guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for listening. Again, please interact with us on social media. Give us a follow. Send us a message on there. If you've got any questions for the podcast, send them in. We'll happily answer them. Obviously, whatever you're listening on, whether it's Apple, Spotify, whatever it is, obviously don't forget to subscribe, give us a 5-star review. But yeah, may the force be with you all. And remember, always tell that to Kanja Club.
Please follow us on Twitter at BoresStar. That's at BORESSTAR. And on Instagram and Facebook at Star Wars Podcast. You can also reach us on email at starwarspodcast@gmail.com. The Star Wars Show can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, and wherever podcasts can be found. Please give us a like, subscribe, and don't forget to leave a 5-star review. May the Force be with you.